Well, after the events of the framework, the team tries to recover from everything they've been through, but that transition is much less smoother than expected. Hey guys, coming for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 21, The Return, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode, mainly because of the way last week's episode wrapped up. I really didn't know where we were going to go from here, if we were going to see the framework again. Obviously, because we knew Mack was still around, I just didn't really know where the show was really going to go, and this was another really great episode. I really did love this episode overall. A lot of great stuff going on here, and if there's one thing this episode really does show is that in the end, everything really is connecting very well. I love the way they have done that this season. We only have one episode left, which is insane, but this was definitely a really great way to set up the finale. But let's just get this episode and where everything is really going to go from, for till the finale. But we start off and we see beneath the Superior's oil rig in the Baltic, the Superior is reading the Darkhold, and he hears Aida, or I guess Ophelia now arrive. She's not really Aida anymore. She's now Ophelia, and he goes in and listens as Ophelia teleports away with Fitz, and Coulson and May then realize that Ophelia has inhuman power now. She's not just a human, she is in fact an inhuman, and they try to process their real lives with their lives in the framework, and obviously it is definitely a big transition because they were very different in the framework than they are in real life, and the Superior tells him that they're only alive because he had no restrictions on him, and he did have restrictions on him, and the restrictions have just been lifted. So May shoots the Superior, but the bullet has no effect, and he quickly disarms her, knocks her to the floor, and the Superior then pins Coulson to the wall. He summons his force shield, and he slices off the Superior's hand, revealing that he is in fact an LMD, and two more Superiors are in the next room. Coulson quickly seals the door to keep them out, and May is very confused. I mean, remember, the last time she was here was before they defeated, Ghost Rider, and, there's a lot of stuff that he does need to catch her up on. That definitely is one of the most interesting parts of this episode, is how behind May is from everyone else, but Yo-Yo and her team are in the Zephyr. They tell Simmons and Daisy that they've taken 3 hits, and they had to pull the plug on everything to keep the framework running for them. And the Superior's fighting continues firing, and Yo-Yo goes with Simmons to the avionics bay, and Yo-Yo demands to know what happened to Mack, because obviously Mack did not return, and they come to a fire cutting them off, and I like how concerned Yo-Yo is with Mack. Obviously, we know those two have developed a really great relationship, and she really does want him to come back to her, obviously, and you can tell that she is very determined on finding out what happened to him, but Coulson then tells May what's been going on, including the fact that she was replaced by an LMD. Again, she had no idea that was going on, and May is then offended when she realizes that Coulson actually took a while to figure out that LMD was an LMD, and he seals the door, says that Mack has to stay put, and they just can't wake him up, and they figured that they have to take control of the base now, and Coulson figures that help is on the way, which is kind of true, but kind of not, and on the Zephyr, Yo-Yo speeds in, she puts out the fire, gets the power cable that Simmons needs, and again, I've said it a million times before, but Yo-Yo really needs to be on the show full-time. I don't know how they have not come to that conclusion yet, but episodes like this really do show why. I mean, she is such a badass, and I love when she's here. She just adds this whole other fun element to the show, and they discovered that the cables won't quite reach, and meanwhile, Davis at the controls spots a fighter coming in at them. Simmons then hooks up the power just in time, acting the defensive fields, and the fighter then blows up against them. They then set course for the oil rig, and Simmons figures that Fitz is in the worst shape of all of them, because as we know, Fitz is very regretful of what he did, and he's very aware of what he did as well. Like, he knows very well what he did in the framework, and he is determined to try to, fix all of that, because obviously he's in a very strange position, and that is one of the best things about this episode, is seeing Fitz trying to get back into his normal self, even though that obviously is very hard to do. Especially because of Ophelia, because he finds himself in Aida on a beach. She enjoys the ocean and the sand on her feet, and then apologizes to Fitz for what he's going through, and she tells him that he did what he had to do to survive the framework, but assures him it was just a simulation created by Radcliffe, which, sure, that is true, it was created by Radcliffe, but she did abuse what Radcliffe was trying to do, and Fitz remembers that Aida was in the framework, and she claims that she was a slave programmed to make the adjustment that Radcliffe required, and he insists that she manipulate him. Like, he's not an idiot, he knows very well what she did, but Aida tells him the only changes she made in Fitz's life was reintroducing him to Alistair and putting herself in his life. All the other choices he made on his own, and yeah, that is true, but again, the whole point of the framework was to take the one pain that everyone had and try to, see what their life would have been if that pain was gone. And obviously we saw not better, definitely not better at all. But she met with the academy in the framework, but didn't feel anything until she gained her human body. And you can tell she genuinely has created feelings for Fitz. And you really do care for Aida here. Like, obviously Fitz does not care about her in that way, but you kind of do wish he did. And Aida takes Fitz's hand, says she chooses him, teleports them both away, and the Zephyr then flies to the oil rig. Daisy tells Yo-Yo that Mack didn't want to leave Hope, and Yo-Yo knows about Hope and says she's dead, and Daisy explains in the framework Hope is still alive, even though she's a video game. Mack just cannot comprehend that. He doesn't care. She points out that Mack didn't remember Yo-Yo, and Yo-Yo prepares to go in the framework after Mack, obviously because she is determined to get Mack back, and she's determined to fix that. But Daisy insists that they need Yo-Yo there, making sure that Mack does stay alive. So Coulson works out where they are from his memories of the framework, and Maitland looks at the medical supplies, including Effenfrine, and figures that it would give her enough adrenaline to take on the superior LMDs. And Coulson then refuses to let May endanger herself, but May says that May's died, and she has to take one for the team because of that. So May jokingly says that Coulson can give her mouth-to-mouth if she does pass out, but Coulson reacts, and she wonders what's up, and I forgot how playful and fun these two really are, mainly because it's been so long since we've actually seen the real Coulson and May. That has not been since the first half of the season. But Coulson finally claims that the LMD tried to kill him. And, she can tell, obviously, there was something larger he was hiding, and he finally does admit to that. And May tells him to keep her alive. No matter what happens, just keep her alive. This is the May that he truly does care about, and they're going to try to move on from that, even though, again, it's not exactly possible. But the agents then tell Simmons that they can't go any faster, shows her and Daisy Talbot on the news saying that S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters were blown up, and Daisy may have been responsible for that. So Talbot tells reporters that they're still hunting for the LMDs and find out who is responsible. So Aida takes Fitz to Radcliffe's penthouse, which was her penthouse in the framework, and she suggests that they decorate together, then admits it was a bad idea. She's overwhelmed by her new feelings, and Aida starts to touch Fitz's shoulder, and Fitz asks her if she has empathy, and she says that she does, and Fitz then tells her that her actions could be perceived as ruthless, and she tells him that she was ruthless to acquire the man that she loved, and she realizes that she made a mistake bringing Alistair into Fitz's framework existence, and says that she was programmed to make them all happy. Like, that's what she was meant to do. She wasn't meant to turn rogue like this and to develop these human feelings, but obviously she's going to eventually acquire intelligence, and Fitz wonders who else was on the list and what the Superior really has planned for his friends, and again, he doesn't really know what's going on. Fitz is confined with Aida for much of this episode, and he's very unaware of all of the torture and all of the peril that his friends are really in, and I thought it was a very wise choice to do that, especially after everything he's done to them. It made sense why they kept him away from it all, because Fitz has been basically the cause of a lot of the peril throughout this, this last chunk of the season, and it made sense why they kept him away from that here. So Coulson reaches the surface, finds the others waiting, he hands May over, and then he, Yo-Yo, and Daisy go to the elevator. A fireball then fills it, and Simmons warns that they have to get off the rig. Yo-Yo refuses that, she does not want to abandon Mack. Like, that's just not happening. And the water rises over Mack's head. Aida finds him, teleports him and Fitz to the Zephyr, and as Fitz tells her that she did it, Simmons then knocks her out, and then Fitz, and she tells Coulson that they have Mack, and the trio on the rig then escape in the containment model just as the rig is about to go down. The team arrives to the base. They find it blown up from when the May LMD blew it up to stop them after coming after it, and they land and go inside, and Simmons then lowers the containment model with the unconscious Fitz and Aida. Yo-Yo offers to cut off Aida's hand, literally just wants to cut it off, and Coulson points out that she's real now, and they can't really do that now. Obviously, she was disposable before because they could just create a new one, but she's human, and they don't really get to do that at this point. So Simmons doesn't believe it. There's no way, but May insists that there is no more killing, and I agree. I mean, that's the mistake they've made throughout this entire season, and they wonder what to do with Fitz, obviously because he's in a very strange position right now. Obviously, he does still hold those feelings for Simmons, but he's very regretful of what he did, and they don't really know what they can do with him now. But May says that they have their lives there, and basically, Simmons asks Coulson and May if they remember what happened in the framework. May says they had full lives there, and Simmons wonders if it feels as real to them as their real lives, and she walks off, and Daisy explains that Simmons is afraid that Fitz will be the same person that he was in the framework. Even though he is back, she's worried that he's going to turn into that persona again. So Yo-Yo figures that Simmons is afraid that Fitz loves someone else, and we see very quickly that that's not the case, and we get what is by far the most emotional scene of this episode, and mainly because of how great Mallory Jansen really is as this character. And Fitz then wakes up. He finds Aida looking at a simulated view. She says that it's ironic now that she's alive and can tell the difference now of, what's simulated and what's real. And Fitz then thanks her for saving Mack, and Aida tells him was the best moment of her life. Finally, she performed a heroic act. Remember, she was meant to help them, not to cause them misery. And she wonders if they can ever forgive her. Fitz tells her that they may forgive her, but not him. Understandably. She changed everything that he cared about. She took everything away from him, and obviously he's not going to forgive her for that. So Simmons watches on the monitor as Fitz says that he did the things in the framework. He figures that he's just like Ward and sits down despondent. And, he's terrified, obviously, because Ward is someone who he's hated all of his life, and what he did was akin to Ward, and I would definitely agree with that, because Ward was very much brainwashed by, Gideon and what he did. Ward was brainwashed by, Fitz was brainwashed by Alistair, so it definitely is very similar in that way. And he wonders how Simmons can stomach the memory of him shooting a woman. Simmons watches and cries, and Aida tells Fitz that she wanted to get closer to him and try to understand what Fitz and Simmons felt for each other, and now she understands. And Fitz says that his future with Simmons is dead, and Aida says she understands how deeply he loves Simmons, and it's sad but beautiful. And she quickly realizes that he is talking about Simmons, and she starts screaming at him that she clawed at the chance for freedom and love. And I heard a lot of people say that she went very over the top very fast, but think about the situation that Aida's in. Remember, she never really felt actual feelings for Fitz until she did develop this human body, and after doing all of that, now she really is starting to feel actual human emotion, because of everything that, is happening to her, it is very overwhelming. It's all kind of happening just at once. She doesn't really know kind of how to process it all. So to have that ripped from her and realize that all of that was kind of for nothing, and that in reality this man really does not care about her at all, it obviously is very shocking to her, and she doesn't really know how to handle it. And I think what she did, obviously it was very irrational, but because of what she has been throughout all of this, it made a lot of sense why she does feel that way, and why she feels like, everything that she cares about has been ripped apart, because it has been ripped apart from her, and it is going to take a while for her to come back from all of that. And it was definitely very sad to see, because it really did seem like she was on the road to recovery and really trying to turn things around, and to see this happen really does shake everything that she was going through, and it definitely does show that there really is no coming back from it. Aida is way too heartbroken, she's way too damaged, and there just is no coming back from everything she's done. So Simmons tells the others that she just has to get Fitz out, obviously because she knows he's not safe. Just as the soldiers break in, Talbot arrives and figures that they are the LMDs. He doesn't trust any of them, which is understandable, because again, you can't tell that distinction. You don't know what's an LMD and what's not, and Aida insists that Fitz must choose her and they'll build a life together. She tries to teleport out, but discovers that the containment cell is warded against her powers, and Fitz ducks into the other room. He seals the door. Davis and the others get her out. Fitz warns them that teleportation isn't Aida's only power, and she apparently has Lincoln's electrical powers. Remember how Lincoln was able to, shoot electrons out of his hands? Well, now she apparently has the power. I don't know how exactly she's developed it. They didn't really get into the how and why, but she does have his powers to destroy the dampers and teleport away. And Coulson tells Talbot that they're no robots, and Talbot doesn't believe them, says that he found Mace's body with his bones quaked apart, and there are 12 S.H.I.E.L.D. agents in critical and more dead, and Coulson offers to try to explain it. Remember, he has no idea about the framework or anything, so he's very much in the dark about all this, and Fitz then tells the agents to abandon him, warning that Aida just can't be stopped, and some of Talbot's soldiers then find them, and Aida teleports in and kills one with his own gun before teleporting away, and as Coulson tells Talbot what happened, the square radios in that's saying that Aida is everywhere. May realize that Aida actually got out, and Agent Prince then gets Fitz down down a quarter. Aida teleports in and kills him. So again, she's just killing everyone like left and right, which again, it's understandable because she just has this rage and she has to get it out somehow. And Davis arrives, shoots Aida in the chest. Piper then drags Fitz into the containment model while Davis goes back after Aida, and Fitz warns that Aida can't be stopped. Shooting her will do nothing, and he sees May. He tells about the other Inhumans that they tested. May then runs off. When the soldiers prepare to shoot her, Daisy threatens to quake them, and Fitz tells Piper that Davis is already dead. Aida reactivates, heals her wounds, and attacks Davis, and Coulson Days then tell Talbot that they're leaving on the Zephyr, and after a moment, Talbot orders his men to fall back to go to the hangar where May is lifting off in the Zephyr. Simmons then visits Fitz in the model, sits down next to him, she gently hugs him, breaks into tears, and it's such a well-done reunion. This is everything that Simmons has wanted for the past, 4 or 5 episodes. All she's wanted is Fitz back, and she hasn't had him back since before she went into, not even before she went into the framework, she didn't have him, because again, he was an LMD, and finally, this is the first time where they truly do feel like they have each other's back, and they actually do have that love reciprocated for each other. It's just a really nice moment. I've loved their relationship throughout this season. It's always kind of been the emotional core of the show, and this is definitely shown very well here. So Daisy and Coulson then head for the hangar. Coulson wonders where Yo-Yo was, and Daisy realizes that what she's done, and she runs back to the med bay. Yo-Yo has actually hooked herself into the framework with Mack, obviously as a means to get him back, but Aida then teleports to the Superior, who says she's suffering from heartbreak. He offers her some vodka, and she gulps it down. Aida then says that to be human is to suffer, and that's something she just didn't realize, that she was going to have to suffer, and the Superior tells her that there are things beyond the universe, and Aida may be one of them. And Aida screams she doesn't want the suffering. The Superior can help her feel something else. He plans to rebuild the world to match the one in the framework, and Aida points out that her plan is flawed, takes another drink, says she wants them all to suffer, and she then tells the Superior to make her feel something else, kisses him, and she throws them to the floor, beats his skull in, obviously realizing he does not care about that and doesn't really reciprocate anything, because again, he can't comprehend those kind of emotions because he is an LMD. Another Superior LMD then emerges and asks if she feels better, and obviously he is going to try to help her, but again, he doesn't have those emotions, and the soldiers then tell Talbot that they lost 3 men, the place is empty. He orders them to clear out and leaves, and behind him, the portal machinery then arrives, and we see Ghost Rider comes through, and he's going to be the one to save them from all this, which was such a welcome return. I love the way that was done. Robbie Reyes was one of the best parts of this first 8 episodes of the season, and I'm very happy to see that he's returning, but that's not the end of the episode, because we see at the end, Yo-Yo finds herself strapped to a chair. She's in the middle of a devastated room, probably getting ready for testing. I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. She's going to be tested on. She screams in despair, and that is the way the episode ends. Really great stuff overall, but let's just get into this episode and where I think we're going to go from here. So, holy shit, I mean, what an episode this really was, and mainly because it started off so calm, like you thought, alright, this is going to be an easy transition for them, they're going to get back into their daily lives, but it really is Aida that is the cause of all of this suffering, and that's something that Aida just didn't really understand. Like, sure, she knew there were going to be perks as becoming a human, you know, she'd have better emotion, she'd be able to actually process the feelings she has for Fitz, and in general, she would be able to, you know, be a lot more powerful. But she didn't realize that humans do suffer. And the feeling of heartbreak is one she has not fully comprehended. And that's why she reacted in such an irrational way. And, it was extremely well done, honestly. I thought they did a really good job with developing all that. I mean, they found a way for us to simultaneously care for Aida, but not necessarily root for her. Like, we very well do understand why Aida has done this, and why she has these feelings for Fitz, and what she was really trying to do. But we understand that she is purely, very easily destructible. She clearly is there to just cause tons of havoc, and obviously, she is the reason why all of this has gone down. I mean, she's why the framework happened. I mean, she killed Radcliffe. All of these things have just kind of all added up. And obviously, just like Fitz said, it's not, you know, they're not just easily going to forgive her. That's not how it works. And that's something that she just doesn't really understand. But moving forward, I don't really know where we're going to go. Because now we have Yo-Yo. She's in the framework. We got Mack in the framework. And I don't know if they're going to survive, honestly. I've said this before. I don't think everyone is getting out of the season alive. I just don't think it's going to happen. The amount of shit that's going down. Talbot thinks that they're all LMDs still, and there's definitely other military members that think that. Daisy's kind of a fugitive right now. Everyone's kind of blaming her for what went down, which obviously it wasn't her fault, but Aida kind of framed Daisy in that way. You got Fitz and Simmons. They're like happily reunited. They're like the only ones in like a good position right now. But here comes Ghost Rider, and I'm very happy to see that Robbie Reyes is back here. I loved his friendship with Daisy in the first 8 episodes, and I hope we see more of him, honestly. I hope they really do utilize him quite well here. And I heard that because of how great Gabriel Luna really was, I mean, everyone kind of wanted him back. Obviously, he was so great as that character, and I'm very happy to see he is returning for this final episode. I'm hoping he stays on further, like he's on next season, but I don't really know if they're going to be able to do that. I'm hoping that they definitely do utilize him again, because I love what we've gotten from him. I think he's fantastic on the show. I'm thinking they're going to use him in the way they use Superman on Supergirl, where he's out there and they use him when they need him, but they don't use him all the time because it is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's not the Ghost Rider show. Ghost Rider has his own, I'm thinking is going to get his own show. I could definitely seeing ABC doing that, but I do think that we are going to see him again at some point next season. But I'm very happy to see he is on the finale. I think he's definitely the help that they need here. I mean, he is Inhuman. Aida's also Inhuman. And, between him and Daisy, they can hopefully take down Aida and, Yo-Yo as well. Yo-Yo obviously is in the framework. But I'm definitely interested in seeing the way this is going to go down. I think it's going to be very well done overall. And I can't wait to see how that final showdown is really going to take place. But the other big question is Fitz and Simmons. Yes, they are happily reunited, but are they actually going to be able to recover from all of the irreparable damage that Aida did cause? Because obviously there is a lot going through Fitz's mind. Again, he thinks he's kind of like Ward, which in many ways he is. Not Ward in the framework, obviously. We're talking about Ward, the Ward that they know. He is very much in the same position as Ward. And the difference with Ward, again, is that he was purely evil and that he always kind of went in that evil direction. Fitz didn't really go in that direction. He was kind of forced to go in that direction, i.e. Aida's brainwashing and also what Alistair was doing to him as well. And I like that Aida is regretful. Like, she's realizing that putting Alistair there really did fuck up a lot, really has Fitz very fucked up right now, which is understandable. After everything that happened, how could you not be fucked up? Really, everything that Fitz has gone through, his entire ideology is just very confusing right now. There's a part of him that obviously does want Simmons, but there's also a part of him that kind of wants to kill. And that's something I think is very interesting. But I also think it's interesting that they're realizing that they can't kill anymore because the killing is just going to make things worse. S.H.I.E.L.D. agents have died. There have been many LMD deaths, and the Superior obviously can't die, so we don't really know where that's going to go. Aida's plan is insane. It's obviously not going to work out. There's no way they're going to recreate the framework, but the episode is called World's End, so I don't really know. Is there going to be some big twist? Again, last season, we had that huge time jump that we had no idea about, so they very well could go in that direction this season. I don't really know how that's all going to go down. Either way, guys, I am absolutely hyped for whatever transpires in next week's episode. I don't really know what we're really getting into here. My only complaint with this episode really does have to do with Aida in general. While I do think they did a very good job developing her human emotions, they didn't really explain how she acquired these powers, specifically Lincoln's. How does she have Lincoln's powers? I didn't fully understand that, the way that the show was going about that. I just didn't really understand how she acquired his powers and everything. That didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Like, after everything they've been through, you're telling me now Aida's also an Inhuman. I just didn't really get that, how she turned into Inhuman, how that all turned out. That just didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Also, the Superior, she promised him a human body. Well, he clearly is an LMD right now, so I don't know if he's gonna get that human body, what's really gonna happen there. We'll have to see. I don't really know how the framework is gonna turn out at this point, but we'll have to see the way all that really does go down. Either way, guys, this was another really incredible episode in this season, which is just really killing it. So really killing it as a whole. I've absolutely loved this season, and I'm definitely going to give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 21, The Return, a 4.5 out of 5 or an A-. So, overall, guys, remember this episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Guys, we have one episode left. I can't believe it, but the finale is actually next week. This season has been incredible, and I really hope we do have a very solid payoff. The other two finales they've had, like the half-season finales, have been amazing. The last finale is the best episode the show has ever done. So I do think it's going to be very hard to top that. But we'll have to see really how things do go down in terms of next week. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Left your thoughts in it. And we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Fargo. And then we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.